Hi, and welcome back. In this section, we'll cover some methods to build your projects with the best results for your efforts by bootstrapping the correct way. Specifically, this will cover troubleshooting and best practice methods for creating your projects. In this first video, we will cover the troubleshooting aspect. This video will cover some of the more common issues when building bootstraps and the methods to troubleshoot many more. The more common items I'll be covering is clearfixing floated items, the mobile scaling, and utilizing the JavaScript console to provide help. Despite Bootstrap moving away from a standard float-based grid system and moving to a flexbox system, there are still many other components and utility classes that utilize standard block display methods that require you to use float positioning. Considering our last section with the login and registration form, we use float left and float right on the remember me check-in and the forget password link to align them on the same line. As a result, you can run into some issues when dramatically changing the size of the viewport, or find that you have some general spacing issues between components. Floating can be tricky and sometimes illogical. Many issues occur when you've not properly cleared a floated item. And so a little trick was introduced to help fix this issue. It's called the Clearfix. Take this example. Here we have two buttons, one floated to the left and one floated to the right. We have a wrapping div with a background color on it. However, if we view this in a browser, we can see the buttons but not the background color. Without clearing the floats, we have caused a broken layout. This can manifest in many different ways. Typically, if you find a parent container wrapping a floated child element and it's not displayed or positioned correctly, you may have this issue. This used to manifest quite a lot with Bootstrap's old grid system that used to rely on float positioning. So we need a way to reset the container and clear the floated items. Clearfix is our savior. Placing the Clearfix class on the wrapping element will clear the floats and now display the background properly. We can confirm this in the browser, and as you can see, we can now see the background of the wrapping element, which means that the layout is no longer broken. You can also use a Clearfix as a standalone element, in which you can mix in responsive utility classes to hide and show depending on certain breakpoints if you need. To demonstrate this, I will duplicate the buttons, keeping the Clearfix on the wrapping div. When we view this in the browser, you can see we're still clearing the row and so we see the background color. However, you see that the buttons are all on the same line. To fix this, we could separate them into different divs. However, there are some occasions that we need to keep them in the same div. So another way to fix this would be to place a Clearfix between the two sets of buttons. So let's add a new div after the second button, and add the class for Clearfix. Heading back to the browser, you can now see it fixes the solution. We can take this one step further, and remove or add this Clearfix depending on the screen size. As you see now responsively, the buttons are on a new line, from desktop to mobile. But let's say we have a desire for the new line to only kick in smaller than desktop or large devices. We can simply add a class to the Clearfix of hidden-lg-up. This will hide it from large and XL devices, keeping the buttons on the same line. Now, as we can see in the browser, the Clearfix only kicks in on smaller devices. Moving to the next troubleshooting item, mobile scaling. You may come across an issue where your website looks very strange on mobile. Either it's tiny, non-responsive, or it's overflowing the viewport. Here we have an example of some columns. And as you can see through mobile phone emulation, it looks really tiny, and it's not what we want. Now by looking at a head of our HTML, it will become very apparent why this is occurring. For true responsive scaling, we will need to reset the viewport, and that's set within the meta tag within the head of our HTML. In our initial template, we created and added this tag here. This makes sure that the viewport is set to the device width, not the predetermined width that is remnant from old responsive methods. Now having applied it to our HTML, we can refresh our page and see that it's now rendered perfectly. Make sure you don't forget to use a meta viewport tag. Our last item to cover will be the JavaScript specific components, namely those like dropdowns, modals, carousels, etc. These components require the use of Bootstrap's JavaScript, which has a jQuery dependency. Take this example. Here we have a modal which requires Bootstrap's JavaScript to launch and close a modal based on the user action, such as a click of a button. Now unfortunately, if we try to click this button now, it does nothing. It could be that we didn't hook it up correctly, or potentially we have not loaded the required scripts. To help us troubleshoot what it might be, let's take a look at the JavaScript developer console. In most modern web browsers, we can right-click the page and click Inspect or View Console. Navigating to the Console tab, we can see there is actually an error, the red text. Bootstrap's JavaScript requires jQuery. So it looks like we haven't actually loaded jQuery, which is a dependency of Bootstrap scripts, to work. Taking a look at the bottom of our HTML where we import our scripts, you can see we haven't actually loaded jQuery. So let's add it back in, making sure to put it above Bootstrap, as Bootstrap is dependent on jQuery. And let's refresh to see if it works. And as you can see, by clicking on the button now, it works completely fine. The console is quite undervalued. A lot of the time, a quick check of the console on issues such as this will uncover what's going on. These are quite common issues and methods to troubleshoot Bootstrap. There are bound to be more items you come across when building out your project. Fortunately for us, Bootstrap being one of the most popular frameworks to date, a simple online search for your issues will return many answers and methods to fix it.